Welcome to Schupak Sports. I'm Marty Schupak. I'm in Valley Cottage, New York, and today we have a special guest. I'm talking to one of the top 5 hitting instructors in the whole country. Good friend of mine, Bobby Woods. Bobby, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Mark. It's great to hear your voice in the sea. It's been too long.
It has been too long too, as Bobby's wearing his Sun Devils sweatshirt.
My Arizona State, I always promote them.
Yeah, it's one thing we have in common. All right, Bob, let's get right into hitting because the people that go to this channel, they like more content and less schmaltz and stuff. Quickly, when you're coaching a team, whether it's a youth team or a travel team, what do you think are the 3 most important things we coaches have to do as far as hitting, teaching kids? And I don't know whether it's head movement. I don't know whether it's the bat. I'll leave it up to you. I know there could be 100 things, but just give me the top 3 things, Bob.
There's a multitude of things in hitting, as you know, and the 3 things I would teach first in a hitter would be the stance, like where to stand in relation to the plate. Should I be, how far I should be? I would teach them how to check their plate coverage and the position of their feet. They should be in an even stance, an open stance, or a closed stance. So the stances I work on first, and then I would work on their balance and rhythm simultaneously, which would be very good like that.
Let me just interrupt you there. When you talk about balance, if you look into hitting, a lot of times they talk about 50-50 balance.
Right.
You're familiar with that. Could you explain what that is and what do you think about 50-50 balance?
Well, I think 50-50 balance is a great thing. And simply that means is you're going to half your weight on your left leg and half your leg on your right leg. Now, George Brett, who is one of my favorite hitters of all time, is in the Hall of Fame. He leaned back.
By the way, Bob, I'm only getting your head to now I see you good. Yeah.
I lean back, yeah.
Lean back. As long as you can hear me and it picks up the sound. But go ahead, talk about George Brett and the 50.
George Brett, who I think was one of the best hitters ever that I knew or saw play. He leaned back a little bit with a little extra weight on his back leg and did very well with that. But teaching a kid 50-50 is a good way, just to half your weight on one leg and half your weight on the other.
Oh, okay. You've looked at like Mike Trout from the Angels.
Yeah.
Okay. Is he more or less 50-50?
He looked more, yeah, I was just watching him today. In fact, he looks 50-50 to me. He's probably one of my 3 hitters that I like the most today playing baseball, along with Juan Soto, the Nationals, and Cedric Mullins of Baltimore Orioles. But after I taught, where the kids to stand, the balance and the rhythm, that I would teach the kid, the student, the baseball player, softball player, how to pick the ball up at release, because hitting more than anything else is a visual skill. And you really need to, we tell kids to keep their eye on the ball, but there's ways to keep their eye on the ball. And I think that's like paramount.
Right. And it's funny you mentioned that, and I keep harping on this, and I hope parents and youth coaches will take my advice. And by all means, Bob, you know more in your pinky than I do I'll ever know about hitting. But 2 of my biggest accomplishments were over the years. I had a couple of players, I couldn't figure out what they were doing wrong. And the simplest thing, I had them getting eye test. And
What a great idea.
One got contacts and one had to get a special goggles. He had like a stigmentation where at night games, I noticed that he wasn't as good during day games. So I've been recommending for weeks for parents to make sure they have an eye test. Okay, let's move on. So balance, you say, is very important.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, what else?
Well, balance, the ability to pick the ball up, off the pitcher's release point. And probably the most important thing of all is you have to realize hitting more than anything else is a visual skill. So how do I see the ball better? So if I'm a hitter and the pitcher goes into his windup, it's called soft focus, where I might look at the pitcher's face. I might look at him from the waist up, like a soft focus. But as soon as the ball comes out of my hand, the release point, I'll try to show you right about here. That's where my eyes should be. And that's fine focus. So you go from soft focus to fine focus. And then as the ball comes in, the hitter's head and eyes should go down to where the ball is. So at contact, when he's hitting the ball, his head is down. I'll try to show you here. If the hitter's nose and chin are directly in the middle of the ball at contact with the head and eyes head down, he has perfect visual vision with both eyes. If the nose and chin comes off to the right or left to center, they only have really vision with one and peripheral with the other. So it's very important, as the ball's coming in, you track it with your eyes and your head goes down to hit it with your eyes on the ball when you hit it. And then I tell the hitters, after they hit it, try to keep your head down a second. For 1 second, that prevents you from peeking to find out where the ball goes before you hit it.
Which is what we all do. All right, so again, go ahead.
It's impossible to always do that because the human element, we're all wanting to look up before we hit it.
That's true, yeah. All right, so again, we're just talking about 3 important things, and there could be 100. You had 50-50, the visual. I want to ask you one thing about the visual before you're going to give me a third thing, and then we're going to move on. On the visual, I put in a drill in, I think actually the video I did with you years ago, one of my books, where a pitcher pitches a ball and the player stands there, but the ball, he has different colors on different balls. So he might have, like with a Sharpie, blue on one, he might have red on another. And
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and he has to hold the bat, he doesn't swing, and he tracks the ball into the catcher's glove. But as soon as he recognizes the color, he yells it out. Is there a benefit in that drill? I think it is, but I just want your opinion.
I think it's a great because he's, first of all, it's a little competitive thing where he wants to get the color right. So kids always like that. And it's making him focus on the ball for a long period of time so he can recognize and give you verbal feedback of the color. And then you give him the reinforcement that he got the color correct. It adds a sense of confidence in him. But anything that makes the kid visualize the ball longer is going to help him.
Okay, so we have the 50-50 to visual. What is like another thing? And we're talking about 3 big things. Go ahead.
Obviously, I haven't seen every major league hitter hit, but I would take an educated guess, 99% of them, when they hit the ball, their hands are inside the ball, which means when they go to swing, I'll try to show you on the screen, as they start their swing, the knob and hands lead the barrel. So the knob and hands come first, right? And then the barrel comes last. That way they get sweet spot contact. Right. It's really hitting inside out is one way to look at it. If you hit outside in, that's when the barrel leads the swing. If your viewers can see that, if the barrel leads the swing, they wind up getting jammed on the handle. Plus they lose bat speed. Plus they lose the ability, right, to hit the ball to off field. So I'll try to do it. It's a little. Here's a ball here. You can see that. You see how I'm just holding the ball with one hand. My hand's inside the ball as I swing.
Right.
That is so important.
Right. And because the hands are inside the ball, does that also relate to the belt buckle facing the pitcher too?
Well, it depends sort of like on the location of the pitch. Like when I was in the Chicago Cubs organization, I had a teammate from Alabama, right? And he said, if it's inside, you yank it. If it's outside, you spank it. It's down the middle, you crank it. In other words, if you yank it, you pull it, spank it, you hit it to the right side, cranking it up the middle. So if I drive the ball right up the middle, right, the belt buckle is going to face more towards the pitcher, to the center fielder. If I pull the ball at the completion of my swing, the belt buckle is going to be more to the left side of the field. And conversely, if it's hit to the right side, it'll be to the right side.
Right. Okay. And we're going to talk about you in a second. Go ahead, Bob. What are you going to say?
So, yeah, I mean, keeping your hands inside the ball is paramount. And there's ways to teach that. I mean, and it's a shame a lot of kids don't hit that way, and it's a simple correction through drills and explanation, and it's sad that they don't learn that.
Right. I want to touch on the legs and the feet. And we mentioned Mike Trout. He's got a pretty high step if you watch him. And
What you mean when he goes to hit, his knee comes up?
yeah, yeah.
Well, that's interesting, Marty. I can explain that to you.
Because I think Manny Ramirez did have a high step also.
What happens with that is, I think I can explain that pretty easily to your viewers and you. Just about every major league hitter, right, before they stride, they shift their weight back.
To get to the launch position?
No, I'll explain launch position.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm going to take it to a couple steps here, right? If you shift your weight back, right, you're starting to get power. It's the beginning of power. Are you with me?
Yep.
Then when you take your stride, it's paramount that you stride on the front part of your foot, because that bends your left leg, which keeps your weight back. That's when you reserve power. So you shift your weight back, and then when you step, you keep weight back, and you reserve that power you just got back by shifting. So, but to accelerate this for your viewers, after this first lesson, I tell hitters to get on top instead of going back, because back is the easy thing to understand first lesson. But when I say to a hitter, get on top, that means you try to take your weight back, but you try to take the weight more on the top of your thigh. Like if you lifted your leg up high, you would feel it. You don't have to lift your leg up high to get that. So if you take your weight on top of your back leg when you shift it back, you utilize the 4 quadricep muscles of your thighs, which is the strongest muscle group in the body.
Okay.
So that's what people like Trout do. Remember David Justice of the Yankees?
Yeah, I understand. But for younger kids, let's say just graduating from T-ball, would you recommend what type of step that they should be taught? Or
I would work with them just going back at first, and then try to explain to them, we want you going back, we want to try to take your weight a little bit on top of that leg, not so much against it. You can do that eventually. There's drills for that.
Okay, and the front foot, is it ever too high for a young kid? I mean, you want to
if you try to lift up the front foot too high, the risk you have with that is you might run into a balance problem because of their age. So every hitter is an individual, so you have to work with each kid that way.
Okay. All right. We're talking to one of the top 5 hitting instructors in the country, and I've known him for a long time, Bobby Woods. And Bob, I just wanted to tell the audience of Schupak Sports and the YouTube channel a little bit about yourself and your own prowess as far as a player and then a coach. So you go ahead, Bob.
Well, I grew up in Margate, New Jersey, which is about 5 miles south of Atlantic City. And I graduated from Atlantic City High. And then I played at a junior college for 1 season in Atlantic Cape Community College, about 19 miles from Atlantic City. And after my first season, back in those days in '69, they had a winter draft and a spring draft. So the winter draft, when I was 19 of January '69, I got drafted by the Chicago Cubs. So before I signed my contract, the scout wanted me to apply to Arizona State University, because after I would finish rookie league in Idaho, Montana, and Utah this summer '69, I could go to school at Arizona State, go to school in the morning, and play baseball in the afternoon in instruction league.
Right.
So that lasted until November. And I was really happy to be invited to that, because it was for top prospects in the organization. So I got to play with a lot of major leaguers, or people that were about to go to the major leagues. And then spring started. Then I went and played spring and spring training, and then went on to play in South Dakota, Minnesota.
Right. And I actually, and we spoke about this, I went to Arizona State too, graduated.
I know you got your master's degree there, right?
I did. And for all the people watching, just so they know, it's in a really interesting location, surrounded by, Mesa, Scottsdale, and Phoenix. So there are a lot of minor league teams there, which, in the spring training, it's a grapefruit league. And once the major league teams leave, the minor leagues take over. And if you want to see some good baseball, it's just wonderful out there. So, okay. And then did you coach, or you just went into
Then
instruct?
I coached at Atlantic Cape Community College, and I coached at Egg Harbor Township High School, and I gave private hitting lessons and clinics. I'm still doing private hitting lessons. Then I started my own website, bobbywoodsbaseball.com, where I produced with my son, who's a film student at
Right.
NYU. He did all the work. It's his talent as far as putting it all together. And
By the way, I'll put the link on the bottom of this, which I'm happy to do. Okay, so Bob, like baseball has been your whole life, which has been
yeah,
great. All right, let's get back into it, Bob, because the fans want to, I'll tell you what, when I used to do these clinics, I used to spend like 15, 20 minutes talking about the importance of a parents meeting. These coaches, they didn't want to hear about it. They just want to learn about first and third defensive strategies, bunting strategies, how to teach hitting. So, this is what they want to hear. All right. I always had a theory, Bob, and I'm not sure, but before we do that, I wanted to ask you, you mentioned Juan Soto,
yes.
who's a wonderful ball player. And I think an article just came out on Sports Illustrated. One of the things he said in the article, which I thought was very interesting, I want your opinion. He said that really high school coaches and players should never worry about launch angle. And I just want to know what your feeling is about that.
I agree. I really agree with that because, every now and then a buzzword or words comes in and everybody gravitates to it. Like, it's like, we just landed on Mars, like something we never knew before, right?
Right.
20 years ago, it was torque, which in reality is just rotational speed around the midline axis of the body, just hip rotate or whatever. So to define launch angle, it's the angle of the ball when it leaves the bat at contact. So in the major leagues, the average launch angle is 12 degrees. But so a lot of hitters now are trying to even get launch angles more than that to lift the ball up and hit home runs. And they're not, and they're hitting some more home runs maybe, but there's more strikeouts. Where Juan Soto, who plays for the Nationals, his launch angle is 5.8 degrees as opposed to 12. And he hits a lot of line drives. Even his home runs, he puts them in the upper deck, don't get me wrong, but his home runs are just sometimes line drives with a little trajectory. And he's not, his average isn't so great this year, but I think that he might be the best hitter in baseball right now. And so I would not emphasize launch angle with children. Okay. Just the thing is, there's 5 things you want to do as a hitter. You want to make consistent contact. You want to hit hard hit ground balls. You want to hit line drives. You want to hit line drives with trajectory. And once in a while, if you launch one over the fence, that's great. But power is not just over the fence. If you hit a line drive up the middle, that's power. If you gap it, it's power. So, if you're trying to launch the ball out of the yard by, having an elevated bat angle, you're going to be popping up a lot and striking out a lot. So it's not Juan Soto is 100% correct.
Bobby, what I found is in coaching like youth baseball, and again, I didn't know a lot about batting, but I had this theory: if a kid is doing like, let's say 10 things wrong, let's say he's a righty hitter, and he's stepping to third base with his front foot, or his stance is too wide, whatever. If you correct like 2 or 3 things, so many other things will auto-correct themselves.
Well, in our conversation the other day, like that, like a light bulb went off in my head the way you explained that. They will auto-correct. I never thought of it that way, but you're right.
Right, yeah, they do. So, and it brings me to another point I see a lot with all sports. Do you think a lot of times, a lot of these youth coaches, and I'm not including you, but I see a lot of these instructors though too. Do you think and I'll include myself, do we overcoach and underteach the art of hitting sometimes? In other words, what I'm thinking of this is, By the way, Rob, we're entering the fourth quarter of this. Just want to let you know.
Okay.
But anyway, I sometimes, Bobby, I think that if we're giving players too much to think about in the batter's box, and you always taught me that a relaxed hitter is a dangerous hitter, that they'll
Well,
be
yeah,
thinking,
I agree. Yeah.
are we over coaching as far when it comes to batting? Should we be
Well,
simplifying it?
I think the simple way is the best way. And to explain it to your viewers, and then I'll simplify it. The goal of an 8-year-old and the goal of, say, Juan Soto, or one of my favorite hitters is Cedric Mullins of the Orioles, and of course Mike Trout. But your goal of a hitter is to want to hit stimulus response. What that means is the ball is the stimulus, right? The eyes see it, a message gets sent to the brain, and you swing. In other words, see the ball, hit the ball, right? If you have a young kid up there thinking about 10 things that you taught him, now you have the ball, right? All these thoughts, and you have a delayed or confused or swing, or no swing at all. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
but as coaches, I guess, I don't know if you want to call it ego or you just desire to help children. You want to give them such an advance that we've probably all in our life. I know with my own son, he had a natural talent, but I think sometimes I try to teach him too much, and this let him do his thing. And like Babe Ruth, he might have had the greatest philosophy ever. All he said was, "I want to hit the ball anywhere and give it a ride." That's all it was.
It's funny because I like Willie Mays when they asked him his philosophy on baseball hitting and fielding. They said, "Could you break it down why you're a success?" And he said, "They pitch the ball, I hit it, and they hit the ball, I catch it." That was it. And we're talking to Bobby Woods of Bobby Woods. Was it Bobby Woods Sports? Bobby
BobbyWoodsBaseball.com.
Woods Baseball. And we're having a good conversation on basic hitting. Bob, give me a couple of drills. You watch a major league game. I watch the Yankees every night, the Mets most nights. You
Yeah.
get a lefty up that pulls the ball, and the team goes into the shift. Okay.
Yeah.
What could a batter do? Let's say, is there a drill to hit the ball the other way?
Marty, I'm so glad you asked me that, because I did this a lot with my son growing up. I learned it from a guy named Ben Hines, who was a hitting coach at ASU after I graduated. Became the hitting coach of LA Dodgers, Oklahoma dude, great guy. Marty, this is one of the best drills on the planet Earth, right? For that question you just asked me. Let's say normally I was pitching to one of your students, right? It's a 10-year-old, okay? And he pulled the ball, the right hand hitter pulled the ball to the left side constantly. So what you do with this kid is, instead of pitching to him from the mound to home on that straight angle, move halfway between the pitcher's mound and first base, and he'll stay in the same spot where he was, and you throw the ball to him at that angle. It's called opposite field batting practice. That will force him to hit the ball to the right side, which is the right of second base to the right field foul line. It is phenomenal.
That's a great drill. I like that drill. Give me like one or two other batting drills for the viewers as we close this out that you really like.
Well,
it could be a toss drill or anything else.
Well, if I'm pitching batting practice to a kid, a hitter, a ball player, when the ball's coming out of my hand, I like the hitter to say the word ball to me. He's telling me when it's being released. Great hitters see it from the release. It's a great drill, right? I know when he's picking it up. Another drill I like is when I throw a four-seam fastball to a kid, right? There's three characteristics to a four-seam fastball. It's wider, it's straighter, and it's faster. Two-seam fastball has more red, more movement, and less speed. So I like to teach a kid how to identify a four-seamer and a two-seamer. Like a four-seamer, you got to start your swing sooner because the ball's on you quicker. Two-seamer, like on a right-hander, until a right-hander moves in, you read the movement, then you swing. Something you don't overthink, but it's nice to know what you're hitting.
Okay, give me another one or two more drills quickly, Bob.
I like hitting off a tee with no stride to start, and just
what is that doing?
Well, what I'm doing is I'm taking the stride out of it, so that's taking a variable out that they might not stride right, like they might be too long, they'd be striding too far out or too far in, and then they just look at the ball, turn their back foot, hit the ball without a stride, and I look at their nose and chin that's in the middle of the ball. Then I have them shift their weight on top, take some more T swings. And then the third thing is I put the stride into hitting off the tee. Then I go behind the L screen and I go through a pitching motion, but I don't release the ball. The kid has the ball on the tee. He puts his head down and hits it. So it's like a sequence.
Great drill. All right, we're going to close this out. Bobby Woods. And again, we're going to put the link down. Thank you so much. You're the best.
Oh, it's great. I hope it's just great that you're getting all these views because you have so much knowledge. And
it's
the only
it's
time
right.
I've asked a million questions about this game. I'm still trying to learn it.
Always be learned. Bobby, we're going to have you back on again. Okay. For Marty Schupak and Schupak Sports, until next time.